moments in life that quietly or suddenly change everything. A diagnosis, a loss, a decision you didn't expect to make. And once that moment happens, the real question becomes, then what? Welcome to Change Happened, Then What? A storytelling podcast about the moments that shape us and the lives we build after them. Each episode brings you a real story told with honesty and care, where everything was questioned and where even then they chose to keep moving forward. This isn't an interview show. It's a place for real stories shared thoughtfully, sometimes messy, sometimes hopeful, but always human. I'm your host, Heather Holt, and I'm so glad you're here. Before we begin, I want to invite you into something I'm doing called the Changed Me Community Drawing. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out how you can enter into our monthly drawing for a super cozy Change Happened trucker hat or a super soft tee. Now, let's dive in. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Mark Maselli, who at 5 years old watched his grandmother go through dialysis, the hospital visits, the machines, the quiet exhaustion that illness brings. And somewhere in that moment, a thought formed in the mind of a child. That will never be me. Of course, when you're 5 years old, you have no idea what the future holds. Years later, Mark would learn that the same kidney disease that affected his grandmother had also found its way into his life. But instead of accepting the story that had already been written for his family, Mark decided to write a different ending. This is a story about discipline, determination, and the power of believing that sometimes the life you're meant to live begins the moment you refuse to give up.
So as a child, I had kind of bounced around a little bit between family members. I was a product of a teenage pregnancy, and so I would live with my grandmother periodically for a couple of weeks, sometimes a month or so, and I would go with her to her dialysis appointments. And it was an early morning, 5 a.m. kind of thing, wake up. I would wait in the waiting room while she got hooked up to the machines, and I would watch, reruns on the little black and white TV they had. And then I would go back and I'd visit my grandmother, and I would ask a million questions about the dialysis machine and why all her blood was out of her body and all the little questions that a 4 or 5 year old kid would ask. And I remember telling her, I'm never going on dialysis. And I had no clue that it was a genetic disorder. I had no clue even why she was on dialysis. I just knew that was something that I never wanted to do. So in 2018, I came home from a work trip and wasn't feeling quite right. So I wasn't sure if it was jet lag or if it was a little bit of a hangover or not. But I just kind of powered through the day, and when I went to bed, I still kind of felt off, like something didn't feel right. And I woke up in the middle of the night and had bloody urine, and I knew that was not a good thing. And part of me was hesitant to do anything about it because I was fearful that I knew what it was about. The reason I knew, I had a feeling at least, what it was about was because I had a family history of kidney problems. And my grandmother had a disease called polycystic kidney disease.
Polycystic kidney disease, or sometimes referred to as PKD, is a genetic condition where fluid-filled cysts grow inside the kidneys. At first, they may be small and unnoticed, but over time they multiply and expand, slowly damaging the kidneys and making it harder for them to filter the body's blood the way they're supposed to. Eventually, many people with PKD reach kidney failure, and when that happens, life becomes dependent on dialysis or the hope of a transplant. For Mark, this disease wasn't something he learned about in the doctor's office. It was something he had watched take hold of the people he loved. For Mark, the disease had already been a part of his family's story, long before it became a part of his story.
I had it in the back of my mind that was probably what was going on. But being kind of a machismo tough guy, I was like, oh, this will pass and everything will be fine. And we'll go about our life the way that we normally went about it. Well, by the time Monday happened, I was still having the same issue. And so I went to an urgent care. And at the urgent care, they said, oh, you probably just have kidney stones. But you need to go to an ER and actually have them check you out. So I drove to the ER. And I sat there and still hadn't called my wife or told my wife anything about this. And as someone that believes in honesty and open communication, this was kind of going against, some of my core values. And part of it was because my wife is a nurse and I knew that she was going to make a big deal out of it. And so I went to the ER and they finally called me back about midday. And then they started running every test possible. They did an ultrasound that led to a CAT scan, which led to an MRI and blood work and all this stuff for them to finally come back. When they finally said, you should probably call your wife and talk to her about this. And so I did. And while I was waiting for her to come, they told me that I had polycystic kidney disease. And it was the inevitable that I knew was coming. And it crushed me because I had seen what it had done to my family.
The one thing Mark had tried to avoid his entire life was suddenly staring him in the face. The diagnosis was clear, and the prognosis wasn't good. Sitting in the emergency room waiting for his wife to arrive, Mark came face to face with the same disease he had watched affect his family for years. But there was one thing he knew with absolute certainty. Dialysis was never part of the life he had planned. Without a living donor, the wait for a kidney transplant can take years. Still, for Mark, the transplant wasn't just hope. It was the line he had drawn for himself, the future he was determined to fight for.
What is this all going to mean? And my head was just spinning. And so when my wife arrived, of course, I just had an emotional breakdown. I just started crying, and it was just a big scene. I ended up staying in the hospital for about a week, and that gave me a lot of private time to kind of think about what was going to happen. And, we're doomed to repeat history if we don't learn from it. And so I thought, okay, I could live with the status quo. I can follow the typical regimen, or I can do something about this. And so when I ended up getting a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor, I sat down with her and I said, this is my plan. This is the plan that I want to execute. How do we go about doing that? And my plan was to not go on dialysis.
Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Do stories like these mean something to you? If they help you see life a little differently, take a moment and think of one person in your life who might need to hear Mark's story today. Maybe someone facing a health challenge, someone who feels stuck, or someone who just needs a reminder that change is possible. Send them this episode. Word of mouth is still the most powerful way podcasts grow, and every share helps these stories reach someone who might need them. Okay, back to Mark's story. With Mark at just 24% kidney function, he's almost ready for the transplant list, but even closer to needing dialysis, to which he replies,
and I said, well, that's not on my agenda, so let's figure something else out.
His nephrologist explains that he can start by changing his diet to help his kidneys function at the highest capacity they can.
So I actually became vegan for a while.
Mark also turns his attention to his physical health by hiking and going to the gym more.
And I really got proactive about prolonging my kidneys as long as I could.
Because in California, Mark says the waiting list for a transplant isn't just a couple of years. It can be 8 to 10 years long.
And I didn't have that. I had probably 6 to 12 months.
By the time Mark gets bad enough in 2022, his doctors say,
Mark, we need to have a real conversation about dialysis.
So Mark does something desperate. He puts out a plea on Facebook.
That's when I put out a desperate plea on Facebook that said, friends, family, random people that are following me, if you have it in your heart, please consider donation. Or if you know anyone that is willing to donate, please consider. And it went a little bit micro-viral. My wife shared it, and then it kept getting shared. It was almost exactly a month after posting that on Facebook that the hospital called me and said, you have 3 matches. I was blown away that in a month, just off of a Facebook post, there were already 3 matches.
3 matches in 1 month? That alone is incredibly rare. Finding even one potential donor can take years. But what struck me even more was the number of people who stepped forward, willing to find out if they were a match, knowing that if they were, they would be voluntarily giving up one of their own kidneys so that Mark could live. And then something even more unexpected happened. We'll be right back after a message from our sponsor. Today's Change Happens story is sponsored by Pure Energy Apothecary. Owner Don Lancaster and I are friends, and honestly, that matters. It's how I know how much care goes into what she makes. Dawn doesn't create products just to sell them. She makes them because she uses them and cares about how they support real people like you. Her magnesium butter has become a staple in my daily life when my muscles feel tired, when my legs won't settle at night, or when my nervous system feels like it's been running on overdrive, which, let's be honest, a lot of us can relate to. Magnesium supports muscle relaxation, helps with sleep, and eases that wired but tired feeling. This butter is creamy and absorbs right into the skin. No heaviness, no overpowering scent, just comfort. For me, it's not just relief. It's a small ritual that tells my body it's safe to slow down. If you're craving that kind of support, visit pureenergyvt.com and use code PURECHANGE to get your 20% off. Now back to Mark's story.
Right around that time, I would say probably within that like a 1-week time frame, my wife's sister called her and said, hey, we're all going to meet in San Diego. We're going to have a little girls' weekend, and it's going to be great. So on my wife's birthday, she calls me and she says, hey, why don't you come down and meet Bonnie? And I said, well, you guys are having a girls' weekend. I don't want to interfere. She goes, no, it'll be great. And so I drive down with my boys, and we get there on the 11th, and we do all the hugs and hellos and everything. And the oldest sister says, okay, everybody, it's time to give Bonnie her birthday present. And so I'm looking around the corner like, they're making a big deal out of this. Where's the big package? I'm looking for a box or something. And Bonnie stands up and she walks over and says, stick out your hands to me. I'm like, this is really weird. I don't know what's going on. And I stick out my hands and she puts a bean in my hand. And me being a guy, I'm like, oh, are you pregnant? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I go, well, bean, like a little bean in your belly, you're growing. And she goes, no, I'm not pregnant. And everyone starts laughing. And I still don't understand what's happening. And she goes, well, what kind of bean is that? And I go, it's a red one. And she goes, no, that's not what it is. What kind of bean is that? I go, I don't know. I know nothing about beans. I don't know what kind of game we're playing here. And she goes, it's a kidney bean. And I said, why on earth would you give me a kidney bean? But before I could even say bean, as soon as I said kidney, all the lights turned on in the house. And I said, no way. And she's like, yes.
Mark tells me that Bonnie had only been a part of their lives for about 2 years. She was a sister they discovered through a DNA search, a connection that came into their lives later than anyone expected. And somehow the sister they had just found would become the one person who could save his life. Bonnie was a perfect match. And the timing of the story feels especially meaningful because March is National Kidney Awareness Month. There are more than 90,000 people in the United States currently waiting for a kidney transplant. And for many of them, the wait can stretch years longer than their bodies can handle. Becoming an organ donor is actually much simpler than many people realize. You can register through your state's registry, often right through your driver's license. And that one decision has the power to save multiple lives. Mark's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the person who changes everything for us is someone we never saw coming.
Bonnie, the perfect match for my kidney, is a family member that we discovered. My mind at that point just was like, I'm not even going to try to comprehend this because it's a different level. There's different entities involved here. I'm just going to accept it.
Mark comes to terms with the fact that he is watching something bigger than himself unfold in real time. What started as a desperate search for hope had somehow turned into something extraordinary. A sister-in-law he had only known for 2 years, stepping forward to give him the ultimate gift. By November of 2023, Mark finally receives his kidney transplant. Here's how Mark describes the monumental experience.
Going into it, I wouldn't call it anxiety, but it felt like anxiety. And the only thing I can kind of compare it to is I grew up playing sports, and it was that feeling before a big game. It was like that kind of pre-game adrenaline, butterflies, but it was like the good butterflies that you're like, I know something good is going to happen. And so I also kind of had this odd feeling that, when this is successful, I'm going to transform. I felt it going into the surgery. And when I came out of the surgery, it was a moment that I really have a hard time explaining because I did wake up different. I felt completely different, not only physically, but mentally. And I want to push on the physical for a second. When your kidneys aren't functioning, all those toxins that they are supposed to filter and get rid of through the normal process of your body working, they just get stored in your body, and they get stored in your joints, they get stored in your back. And so I'd been living with like chronic pain for years. And part of the back problem was because my kidneys were, the size of an American football each, when your normal size should be the size of your fist. And I believe the kidney that they ended up removing the right kidney, was about 20 pounds.
Okay, hold up, back up. Did you hear that? Mark had been carrying around an American football-sized 20-pound kidney. I've got to hear him say that again.
20 pounds, the size of an American football each.
Okay, let's put that into perspective for a second. 20 pounds. That's about the weight of a full-size car tire, a big bag of dog food, or a 2-year-old toddler. And Mark had been carrying that inside his body. So it's no surprise that when he woke up after surgery, he felt like a completely different person, inside and out. Suddenly, his body had space again, energy again. And now he had 3 months away from work to sit with something he hadn't allowed himself to imagine for a long time. What was he going to do with his new life?
Physically, I felt so much better, but mentally, it was like someone removed the fog from my brain. And I thought clearly, and I thought in ways that I hadn't felt in years. And the doctors had given me 3 months. They said, okay, you need to take off 3 months of work, and during that time, you're going to have to rehab and kind of get back to air quote, normal. And so I spent 3 months at home sitting on the couch. And after about 2 weeks, I was bored out of my mind. I had watched as much TV as I could possibly watch. And at that point, I'm like, I'm bored with TV. And I did a lot of introspective thinking and thinking about, what does this all mean now? And do I just take this and go back to my old life? Is that honoring my donor? Is that honoring my grandmother who ended up dying from this disease? My 2 uncles who died from the disease? And the people that are on the transplant list that may or may not ever receive a kidney? Is going back to my old life, honoring the whole gift of receiving a kidney? And I said, no, I think this means I have a greater purpose to serve now.
And this is the part of Mark's story that I absolutely love, because he isn't just thinking about his recovery, he's thinking about what this gift means. He understands that this moment is bigger than him. He wants to honor his donor, his family, and every person out there still waiting for the transplant that could save their lives. So Mark decides he's not just going to advocate for awareness, he's going to prove something. That if you want something badly enough, if you're willing to fight for it, sometimes you really can rewrite the story of your life.
I've got to do something different, and I've got to do something that raises awareness and kind of inspires others to take back control of their life. You know, being able to share my story and get out there and help others who suffer from the same problems, it felt like that was it. And I had recalled talking to a friend, and she runs 5Ks, and she was always talking to me about running a 5K with her. And I'm not a runner.
Oh, I can relate to that. If you ever see me running, you should probably start running too, because there's a good chance I'm being chased by a bear. But despite the fact that Mark is not a runner, he's looking for a way to make an impact, to change how people see what's possible after something like this. He wants his story to mean something. So Mark says,
and then it hit me. Why not run a marathon?
Okay, so let's just take a second here. We have a guy who just received a kidney, a whole new lease on life, and instead of easing into things with a little 5K or maybe a 10K, you know, the whole not being a runner thing and all, he decides to go all in. Mark is going to train for a full marathon.
So I thought that was what would make for a pretty significant story to inspire others. And so I started training for one. It was really challenging at first to just even walk down the street, because they had cut me from my belt line almost all the way up to my sternum when they did the surgery. So I had some pretty significant abdomen incisions, and so I had to heal from that. But after I think it was about month 5 after the transplant was when I finally was able to jog a little bit, jog for a minute, walk for a minute kind of thing. And then I found a 6-month couch to marathon training plan on the internet, and I just started following it. 346 days after my transplant, I ran the Las Vegas Marathon.
346 days after surgery, Mark runs a marathon. Not even a full year into recovery from a kidney transplant, and he's standing at the starting line of the Las Vegas Marathon. Now, if you've never seen that race before, it's not exactly a quiet morning jog. Thousands of runners line up along the Las Vegas Strip. Neon lights, music, crowds cheering. It's one of the most energetic marathon courses in the country. And somehow, less than a year after a major transplant surgery, Mark is right there in the middle of it, proving to himself and everyone else watching that the limits we imagine for ourselves aren't always real. But even that's not enough for Mark.
Part of doing that was to show that when we put our minds to something, we can achieve just about anything that we want to. What do I do with this now? And then I sat down and I wrote a book.
Because once Mark crossed that finish line, the next question naturally followed. Now what? Of course, Mark writes a book. It's called The Overcomer's Journey. In the book, Mark takes readers through the mindset, discipline, and determination that carried him from a hospital bed to a marathon finish line. He calls it the Maselli mindset, a framework built around vision, discipline, resilience, and the belief that we all have the power to rewrite our stories. His message is simple but powerful. Life will hand you challenges you never asked for, but what you choose to do next can change everything. Mark also shared an interesting tidbit with me about his transplant. Doctors actually left the other diseased kidney in his body alongside the new one. He explained that the body has a way of focusing its energy on the healthy kidney rather than the failing one. For Mark, that's part of his long-term outlook. If complications ever arise down the road, he'll deal with them when they come. But for now, he's focused on living the life he fought so hard for. As we wrap up our conversation, Mark has these words of wisdom for anyone listening today who might need to hear them.
If there's someone out there that's listening to this that is in that state of not happy with where they are in life, the thing that I would share with them is it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to take that first step.
What I take away from Mark when he says this is that creating new patterns in our lives don't always have to be something huge or overwhelming. It often starts with something small, one step, one decision, one moment where we choose to move in a different direction. Small steps are how new habits begin. So, before we finish talking, I asked Mark my favorite question. What makes you smile today?
Well, I wake up every day with gratitude. Every morning I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, I rub where the kidney is, my new kidney is, and I just say thank you. And that starts my day with a smile.
This is something I've heard from so many people while working on this podcast. It's also a mindset I try to live within myself, because when we allow ourselves to feel grateful for what we have, something shifts. Suddenly, there's room to breathe, room to notice the beauty that life still brings us, room to see how we can transform the way we move through the world simply by appreciating what's already here. If you're still listening, I hope you can find gratitude for something in your life, and maybe even the courage to take the first step towards something new. Because somewhere along the way, that 5-year-old boy sitting in a hospital room watching his grandmother connected to dialysis machines made a quiet promise to himself that that will never be me, and somehow he kept that promise to himself. After all, Mark's story proves that when life changes everything, what happens next is still up to us. Mark's message is a powerful one. Please go check him out. Follow along for more inspiration from his journey. And if Mark's story moved you today, you might also consider learning more about becoming an organ donor if you're not already registered. And now for the What Changed Me community drawing information. Head to changehappenedpodcast.com. Click on the What Changed Me banner to tell us what stayed with you from today's episode or any interview episode you listen to as part of the What Changed Me community drawing. Each time you share, you'll be entered into a Change Happened drawing. You can enter more than once. Every entry is also automatically included into our quarterly drawing for a special Change Happened Super Prize, whether you've won before or not. Change doesn't end the story. It's often where the next chapter begins. If something in today's episode stayed with you, a moment, a sentence, a feeling, I'd love to hear about it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. You're welcome to head to changehappenedpodcast.com to tell us what stayed with you from today's episode or any interview episode you listened to as part of the What Changed Me community drawing. Each time you share, you'll be entered into a Change Happened drawing. You can enter more than once. Every entry is also automatically included into our quarterly drawing for a special Change Happened Super Prize, whether you've won before or not, because these stories don't end where the episode does. They keep moving forward in what we carry with us and in who we pass them on to. Change Happened, Then What? Is written, edited, and produced by me, Heather Holt, with the loyal background support from my two sidekicks, Waylon and Dalton. Until next time, keep smiling and maybe let your dog inspire your next big idea.
There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile when you think you can't. Smile, get up and dance. Smile, there's a bigger plan. The storm only lasts for a while. So smile.